Dr. Parker was a biology instructor at a posh suburban girls' junior college. And during class, he says, Miss Smith, would you please name the organ of the human body which under the appropriate conditions expands to 6 times its normal size, and define the conditions? Miss Smith gasped, blushed, and then said, Dr. I don't think that's a proper question to ask me. You should be asking a boy. I assure you my parents are going to hear of this. And she sat down, red-faced, but unperturbed. Dr. Parker called on Miss Johnson and asked the same question. And Miss Johnson said, the pupil of the eye in dim light. Correct, says Dr. Parker. And now, Miss Smith, I have 3 things to say to you. 1, you haven't studied your lesson. 2, you got a freaking dirty mind. And 3, someday you're going to be faced with a dreadful disappointment. Ain't that the truth? Cardiac specialist died. At his funeral, the coffin was placed in front of a huge mock-up of a heart made out of flowers. When the pastor finished with the sermon and eulogy, after everyone said their goodbyes, the heart opened up, the coffin rolled inside, and then the heart closed. Just then, one of the mourners burst into laughter. The guy next to him's like, why are you laughing? The guy goes, well, I was thinking about my own funeral. Well, what's so funny about that? And he says, well, I'm a gynecologist. Pussy trap, buddy. One night, a man and a woman are both at a bar knocking back a few beers, and they start talking. And they come to realize they're both doctors. About an hour later, the man says to the woman, hey, how about if we sleep together tonight? No strings attached. It'll be just one night of fun. So the woman doctor agrees. They go back to her place, and he goes in the bedroom. She goes in the bathroom and starts scrubbing up like she's about to go in an operating room. She scrubs for a good 10 minutes. Finally, she goes in the bedroom and they have sex for an hour. Afterwards, the man says, you're a surgeon, aren't you? And she goes, yeah, how'd you know? The man says, well, I could tell by the way you scrubbed up before we started. Oh, that makes sense, she says. And you're an anesthesiologist, aren't you? She says. He says, well, yeah, how did you know that? And the woman says, I slept through most of it, and I didn't feel a goddamn thing. Oh, is my mic cut down? Maybe I should get down.
I heard the joke.
We got that one.
I heard it too.
Yeah.
Okay, a man goes to a proctologist's office for his first exam, and the nurse told him they have a seat in the examination room. The doctor will be with you in just a few minutes, she says. Well, when the man sat down and started looking at all the tools, he saw there were 3 items on the stand next to the desk. One was a tube of KY jelly. Second was a rubber glove, and the third was a beer. When the doctor finally came in, the man said, look, Doc, I'm a little confused. This is my first exam. I know what the KY's for. I know what that glove's for, but can you tell me what that beer's for? And at that, the doctor got noticeably outraged, and he stormed out the door, flung the door open, and yelled, God damn it, nurse, I said a butt light.
Oh, that's so funny.
5 surgeons are discussing who the best patients are to operate on. The first surgeon says, I like to see accountants on my operating table because when you open them up, everything inside them is numbered. The second guy says, you should try electricians. Everything inside of them are color-coded. The third surgeon says, oh, I think librarians are the best. Everything inside them is in alphabetical order. And the fourth surgeon chimed in, you know, I like construction workers. They always understand when you have a few parts left over in the end, and when the job takes longer than you said it would.
Yeah.
But then the fifth surgeon shut them all up with his observation. He goes, you're all wrong. Politicians are the easiest to operate on. There's no guts, no heart, no spine, and the head and butt are interchangeable.
Oh, that's good. Oh.
And my last one, a woman went to the doctor's office. She was seen by one of the new doctors, but after about 4 minutes in the examination room, she burst out screaming, running down the hall. And this older doctor stops her and says, what's the problem? And she goes, her explanation, she gave him an explanation. He had her sit down and relax, and another older doctor marched back to the first doctor and said, what is the matter with you? Mrs. Terry is 63 years old. She's got 4 grown children and 7 grandchildren, and you told her she's pregnant? And the new doctor smiled smugly and said, Cured her hiccups, though, didn't I?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Hey!